Hello and welcome back to Clownfish TV. It is me, Geeky Sparkles, and it's just me today because Neon is elsewhere. So today we're going to talk about the Teamsters and Basic Crafts reaching a tentative deal for a new contract because their contract was going to expire on July 31st, which could put another Hollywood industry into strike territory. And it looks like they reached a deal last night, which might stop yet another potential strike from happening. And this is after we had the strikes last year with WGA and with SAG-AFTRA and all the after effects that are hitting with that, which we're going to look at during this video. So before we get into any further, please like and subscribe. If you do, I'll give you a woohoo, and we're going to talk about this. So according to Deadline, the Teamsters and Basic Crafts reached a tentative deal. So what's going on was they were in the final sprint of talks, and Teamsters Local 399 announced this before midnight on Saturday. That'd be, LA time. So that'd be like 3 hours. It'd be 2 a.m. East Coast. That they have reached a agreement with AMPTP, the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television. And they said the tentative agreement is what's going on. So they're going to have to look at it. They're not letting people know too much about what's in it, but it's something that'll be like we saw with Disneyland, where it'll go to the members and then they'll look at it and then they'll be able to vote on whether yes or no they want to accept the agreement. So here's what was said. This was from Lindsay Doherty, said this. After the long last 48 hours, we are proud to report that all Hollywood Basic Crafts locals have reached a tentative agreement with AMPTP late this evening. Okay, the Basic Crafts spent today working closely with our member-led negotiating committees to finalize a deal with AMPTP that we can now say is being unanimously recommended by our member-led bargaining committees. I like it when they have member-led bargaining committees, which most do, because they're there because they know what people need. It's not like I'm the lawyer and the leader and I'm going to tell you what you need. It's people actually know what they need. They know what to bargain for. Of course, the idea of bargaining means that you don't get everything you want on either side, but you get a lot of what you want. That's usually how this works, unless you're, a writer or an actor in Hollywood, and then it bits you in the ass, which we're going to talk about here shortly. So they said more information is to follow tomorrow afternoon for the general membership meeting. They said swirling around the past few hours what was made official with the wage increases, the last significant hurdle. Okay, so we keep seeing that different organizations want more money. Understandably, because the economy is a crap show right now, and inflation is ridiculous, especially in places like California. So people want money because they can't survive on what they're getting paid before. That's just usually a given that more money is one of the demands. They said that they came at 24 hours with the Local 399 sent out a missive that painted a bleak picture of the weeks-long talks. Late Friday, Teamsters and AMPTP had put on the table the last, best, and final offer. In response, the Teamsters and Basic Crafts put forth a counterproposal with what we know to be a deal that would be recommended for ratification. So now they're going to go to this. They're going to take this and let the people vote on it. They have not a date when they're going to be doing the voting on it. This is the history of it. They said no word when the tentative agreement was sent to the members to vote. Yeah, usually they give them to the members and the members vote on it. This has been an ongoing issue with Hollywood. We keep seeing strike after strike, or potential strike after strike, as contracts are up, and it's like all happening like within a year of each other. Which I guess is normal, but it's kind of concerning because this is going to happen again in 3 years. Except now we'll probably have more AI crap and stuff to deal with. But the only problem with having new contracts, and we've talked about this before, the only problem with having, the contracts and stuff, especially if you're asking for more money and things, is a lot of times the ones who are left get what you're wanting. And the problem with Hollywood is it's in a period of, collapse. I don't want to say collapse, but it's definitely shrinking. It's on Ozempic, and it's like shrinking. So the ones that are still there will see better, they'll see the provisions, the better pay, better hours, better health care, whatever they ask for. The ones that, are left. But a lot of people are going to be scraped off and kind of tossed out, and that's the problem. They mentioned IATSE members ratified their new agreement before in July. And then they're talking about the SAG-AFTRA video game actors against, for Activision, Disney character voices, etc. Neon talked about that in another video. Now there's voice actors want to strike. So he got another one coming. It's just like as soon as you avoid one, here comes another. But the problem is this. Hollywood strikes have decimated Hollywood. So they're talking here like the 1 year later, we did a video on this. The Hollywood reckons with the aftermath. And while some people who got to stay in positions thought it was great because they get more, a lot of people are upset because they're getting less. He said agents and different people like that are talking about how many fewer jobs there are. And they're also concerned about the residuals because now it's performance-based, has to be one of the top shows. And of that, you don't get to keep all your residuals. 25% goes into this pot for whatever they decide to give it to. So people that get to stay don't even get all the money that they're promised because they have to give it to spread it out to this fund. And then we had with the with the WGA, writers' earnings fell $600 million because of the strike. So those who stay, again, get more. But what happened is, and we're going to talk about this, is Hollywood is shrinking. They have to. They overspent. They kept greenlighting every stupid project known to man, including ones that were simply just there for DEI money and things like that. Not every project's like that. And I want to make it clear, when I say DEI, I'm talking about people that are hired because of agenda reasons or because, they have to have some kind of guidelines and mandates. I'm not talking about every diverse project, every person who's not white, straight, and male. I'm not talking about that. Because before all this stuff, there were a lot of diversity, a lot of people who were talented and deserved to be there. But they also hired a lot of people who didn't deserve to be there based on things like who you sleep with and what color your skin is. And that's stupid. But that's not the same. Not every movie that has a black lead is a DEI movie. Not every video game that has diversity is DEI. The problem is when it becomes that they were hired to push agenda and narrative and for quotas and not because of talent. There are quite a few talented, diverse people in Hollywood, in gaming, and all that stuff. And there's a difference. And I think people throw that term around way too often. And it's unfair. But in this case, there was a lot of choices made based on things like that did not work out. And everybody and their brother wanted their own streaming service. Everybody and their own, the brother decided they were going to, make their own content instead of just, making it for like Netflix or Hulu. And they overspent and the returns were not there. And now we're seeing what we said was going to happen back when the streaming war started, and it's become Highlander. And that's what's happening with these union agreements too. You're in the union, that's great, but it's Highlander in the fact that there's there was 50 jobs before and now there's 20. So the people that are left that are the 20 jobs, they're going to do great, but that's 30 people that are out. And that's what happened with the writers. Okay, so this is coming from Variety. And they said writers' earnings fell $600 million due to the strike and industry contraction. That's the word I'm looking for, is contraction. So they said writers' earnings fell $603 million last year, or about 32%, as the end of peak TV coincided with the strike. It didn't just coincide. I honestly think the studios were looking for a way to trim, and this gave them the perfect opportunity to do so. And like Neon kept saying, when things are bad, times are bad, it's not the good time to ask daddy for a pony. I think that's what happened here. So they said writers' earnings are reported by dues purposes dropped $1.9 billion in 2023, adjusted for inflation. That's the lowest level since the writers' strike in 2007, 2008. Employment also fell by 19.5% to 5,501 working writers, the lowest number since 2014. Nothing of value was lost. I'm sorry. They said, here's the numbers here. You're seeing 95. Here's the amount of writers and their earnings. These are in, I don't know if these are in thousands or whatever. There's 100 here. And it goes clear up, way up here, where we have way too many. Peak TV, and it wasn't peak viewership. It wasn't the fact that it was a pandemic, people were home, but it was peak TV and the fact they kept greenlighting so many damn projects. And then right after the pandemic ended and people weren't home anymore, crash. It was not sustainable. It never was. So they're talking about that. They said the TV business shrank from 600 shows in 2022 to 516 in 2023. It had to. It wasn't sustainable. They said the union said that the steep declines reflected both the industry contraction and the company's refusal to negotiate a fair deal, resulting in a 5-month strike. No, the companies didn't negotiate a quote unquote fair deal because they knew they were going to be canceling stuff, and they were using this opportunity to get rid of shows and get rid of people. And the whole thing was the writers, we said this in the beginning, the writers wanted mandated writers' room with big sizes and all this and more money and everything else. But if you don't have enough work for 30 writers, you don't get 30 writers. If you have, 100 shows and half of them are failing, you're not going to keep those 100 shows with all those writers attached. The ones that are left are going to have better conditions because they're going to have to cut it. That's just the way it is. And we said this was going to happen. It's just how math works. And I suck at math, but I seem to understand math far better than people that are supposed to know way more than I do. So they said that in 2023, the dramatic was 32% drop for 2023 will likely be revised next year to show a somewhat smaller decline. I don't think so. I think you might get when they say somewhat smaller, I don't think it's going to probably 28, 29. It's still large. I'm sorry, but it is. The writer employment reached an all-time high before the strike with 6,835 writers, most of which we didn't even need. And the reporting income for 2022 was 80% above the figure from 30 years ago. Well, that's called inflation. In normal terms, writers earning a record in 2022 at $1.89 billion the peak was in 2019. In addition to their regular earnings, writers received $598.5 million in residuals, a 3.5% gain from 2022. I think you should get residuals as long as you've earned it, as long as it's performing. But they're mad because, now residuals are tied to merit. You have to earn it. They're mad because we had record number of writers and y'all thought you should stay. But it was never going to be sustainable. If the shows don't perform, they can't keep them. That's the same it's going to be with everyone. It's going to, I'm glad the crafts group, the Teamsters and Basic Crafts are getting a deal because I honestly think the people like IOTC and the Teamsters and Basic Crafts deserve a deal over other people because they do a lot of the work. They're like the people the skilled labor that get a lot of this crap done. But what's going to happen is there's fewer shows. That just means fewer jobs. So the ones that stay get more, but they're going to cut how much they make. And most people are just watching old stuff anyway. Gen Z, the audience they're targeting so hard, watches YouTube, TikTok, and Friends, and The Office, and old shows. They don't care much about the new ones. I'm sorry, it is what it is. There's so much content out there already. You don't need all this stuff. The good stuff's the cream's gonna rise to the top. That's what people are gonna go for. And I mean, while there's an audience for some of the stuff that's underneath that layer, the majority of people are going to stay with that. And you don't need a lot of the stuff underneath. So it goes bye-bye. It is what it is. I don't know what to tell you. So good news for the Teamsters and Basic Crafts because they got a deal. It sounds like hopefully it's a good one and they're going to probably get a chance to look at it and vote on it. We don't know what's in it yet, but that's good for them. Good for them. I'm glad they're getting it, but also be aware that in order to get that, there's probably going to be fewer people employed. And that's going to happen no matter what because it's contracting. There's fewer projects. You need fewer people. Sadly, it is what it is. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, please like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.